shot in 4K ultra high definition. Your number one source for local news. WRAL News. Coverage you can count on.
Yep, it's another warm start out there this morning, but not quite as muggy as it was yesterday. I'll show you what it will feel like through this afternoon and when the hottest day this week will be.
And with just a few days left in the legislative session, lawmakers are eager to get things done. A look at the strictest medical marijuana bill yet and what it means for the future of recreational use.
Plans for a massive Apple campus at RTP are on hold now. The factors that led to the delay and what this pause means for us here in the Triangle.
And it was a big night for the Florida Panthers, who are now Stanley Cup champions. How they secured the cup for the first time. Late June and finally hockey season is over, but we are definitely in our summer season. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Renee Chu.
And I'm Jeff Hogan. Yeah, great to have you along. It was the longest NHL season ever. Stretched out 259 days. I mean, most of the year.
Yeah.
Elizabeth Gardner in the WRAL Severe Weather Center. We might have to argue about the humidity. I still think it's pretty muggy out there.
Well, I have the proof that it's not quite as muggy as it was yesterday. But yeah, I mean, it is June. We're in the middle of a heat wave, dangerous heat all week long for sure. We take a look at Clinton this morning and it's quiet. Skies are clear. It is 76 degrees in the Triangle. It is warm, but we have a northeasterly wind today, and that is bringing in slightly drier air than yesterday. It's a subtle change potentially, but look at our heat index. Yesterday, our heat index was well into the triple digits, and today we may just not see much of a heat index at all because our humidity will be just enough lower. And so we're looking at our temperatures climbing up into the mid 90s, and of course, mostly sunny skies. Yesterday, we had a few scattered storms. We're less likely to see that. Now, tomorrow could end up being the hottest day of the week. We have 100, and our forecast for tomorrow, I'll show you what it will feel like, how much hotter than that with the heat index coming up.
Elizabeth, thanks. New this morning, the state Senate passed its strictest bill to legalize medical marijuana. It's now up to the state house to decide whether to approve it. WRAL's Laura Levine joins us live from the legislative building this morning. And Laura, this is an effort to get the bill passed before the legislative session wraps up.
Yeah, Renee, lawmakers have been going back and forth on this matter for quite some time now, and we know a stricter version of that medical marijuana bill did pass the Senate late last night. It's a last-minute effort to really get a legalization bill over the finish line. So that bill would ban North Carolina from allowing fully legal marijuana, even if the federal government legalizes it. That's meant to win over skeptics, specifically on the religious right. They're concerned that medical marijuana would be a first step toward recreational legalization for all adults. Now, the bill now goes to the state house, where it remains to be seen if this change will win over enough support. Laura Levine, WRAL News, live in Raleigh.
The impasse over how to use a $1 billion budget surplus remains in place in the state legislature. The House has already said it will not take up the $31.4 billion spending plan the Senate passed last night. Both chambers want a large expansion of the state's private school voucher program. Both also include some money to help stabilize child care centers when federal funding decreases July 1st. But the House budget also includes small additional raises for teachers and state employees and a bonus for retirees. The Senate budget does not. If they don't reach a deal by July 1st, the two-year budget that's already in place will go into effect. But that $1 billion surplus would go unspent.
Apple is delaying its plans for a massive campus in Research Triangle Park. The $1 billion project is expected to be one of the largest in our state's history. Now it's on pause for up to 4 years. Back in 2021, Apple announced plans to build a 1 million square foot research and development campus in RTP. It planned to bring 3,000 jobs with salaries averaging around $187,000. State commerce officials approved an economic incentives package that included grants of more than $400 million. Now, the company is delaying the start of the project after a review of its real estate. WRAL asked a corporate site selection expert about factors that led to the delay.
Think about the sea change in the economy with respect to spiking interest rates and historic levels of inflation, skyrocketing construction costs, skyrocketing construction labor costs.
Governor Cooper says he's spoken with Apple executives. He says they pledged their commitment to build an RTP, adding that it will still be among Apple's most significant campuses.
First Lady Joe Biden will be in North Carolina today. She'll speak at a political finance event in Charlotte. This will be the first of 2 visits for the First Lady to the state this week. She'll be in Raleigh along with President Biden on Friday. This week, the first debate of this year's presidential cycle is happening, and you'll notice a few different rules than what we've seen in the past. Microphones will be muted unless it is their turn to speak, and there will be no live audience. The debate is Thursday at 9 p.m. You can watch it on WRAL.
A popular Durham restaurant is forced to close after a car crashed through the side of the building. The surveillance video shows the moment that Kia came flying through the wall into Mescalito's kitchen. The manager there tells WRAL speeding is an issue on that stretch of Fayetteville Street. Luckily, no employees or customers were hurt.
Grateful that everything came out okay. Nobody's hurt. Fortunately, it is damage to the building, but that is repairable. We can fix that. That's not an issue. We're just glad that everyone was okay.
Durham police say Brandon Lovett was cited for reckless driving. He was not seriously hurt. While construction should not take long at the restaurant, their reopening is subject to health department approval since the car went through the kitchen.
WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange has reached a plea deal with the U.S. Justice Department. Assange plans to plead guilty to a conspiracy charge this week. The deal will allow him to go free after spending 5 years in a British prison. Assange's felony charges related to his alleged role in one of the largest U.S. government breaches of classified material. The plea deal must still be approved by a federal judge.
New this morning, President Biden has approved a major disaster declaration in Iowa because of widespread flooding. Flooding in the northwest part of the state has left highways submerged, and that's cut entire towns off from surrounding areas. Mandatory evacuations are happening in some communities.
Carolina Panthers will stay in Charlotte for at least another 20 years after a new deal was reached between the city and team owner David Tepper. Charlotte City Council voted last night to give $650 million towards renovations to Bank of America Stadium. Tepper Sports and Entertainment agreed to pitch in $688 million. The renovations are expected to be complete by the 2029 NFL season. Tepper also owns Charlotte FC, which will also stay for 20 years under that deal.
The manufacturer of Ozempic and Wegovy is pouring billions of dollars into Johnston County. Officials are calling it the largest life science investment in state history. It's a story WRAL first brought you last week. The $4.1 billion investment will quadruple the size of the Novo Nordisk facility in Clayton. It will add 1,000 jobs with a minimum salary of $69,000 a year. Novo Nordisk says this should help supply issues it's been facing. Construction of the expanded facility is expected to be finished between 2027 to 2029.
Today, a group advocating for disability rights across the U.S. will visit Raleigh and Durham. The Caravan for Disability Freedom and Justice will be at Dix Park from 10 to noon today. They'll share information about inclusion, disability rights and services, voter rights, and more. The group will hold a pair of events in Durham from 6 to 8:30 tonight. An indoor event will be at Part and Parcel on Chapel Hill Road, and an outdoor event is happening at Lions Park.
A film crew will be shooting a TV series on UNC Chapel Hill's campus in a couple of weeks. This will impact traffic and parking between July 8th and 10th. UNC says filming will largely take place outside on McCorkle Place and surrounding buildings. So if you'll be around the area during that time, expect delays, road and parking closures. We're unsure which TV show will be shot there.
Well, the Florida Panthers are Stanley Cup champions. The Panthers beat the Edmonton Oilers last night 2-1 to win Game 7 of the Stanley Cup final. It's the first time the Panthers have ever won the Cup in their 30-year history. It's also the first Cup for Coach Paul Maurice, who formerly coached the Hurricanes and Whalers.
It is 4:39. Coming up, more flooding in the Midwest. See the incredible drone video of floodwaters in South Dakota that got so bad a rail bridge collapsed.
And this hot spell is taking its toll on local farmers and soon your wallet. How the loss of crops could shoot up prices at the grocery store.
And here's a live look at Clinton this morning. A cooler start this morning than yesterday, but we will be in the 90s again. It would sure be nice to get some rain. Meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner maps out our chances for the week.
From the WRAL Severe Weather Center, North Carolina's most experienced team of meteorologists.
It is 4:43. It's a warm start out there again this morning. 76 in Durham, 76 in Raleigh, and 74 degrees in Fayetteville. This time yesterday, our dew point was also at about 75, 76 degrees. And today, it's in the upper 60s. And it's a subtle change. But when I was walking in, I was like, it actually feels a little better than it did yesterday. Temperatures are still as warm in most places, but we do have some 60s showing up on the map. 68 Tarboro, 66 in South Hill, but most of us are in the low to mid 70s heading out the door. 73 in Southern Pines. 74 in Irwin, and 72 degrees in Goldsboro. Walking the dog this morning, it's warm and muggy, of course, and we'll see highs in the mid-90s. It'll feel more like around 100. We had a few storms yesterday. Today looks dry across the viewing area.
Elizabeth, thanks. A South Dakota river rose so high that it caused a railroad bridge to collapse. You can see a large part of the steel bridge underwater as floodwaters rushed over it. The bridge is the main rail link from South Dakota into Iowa. There were no reports of injuries from the collapse. However, the Highway Patrol says one person died in the state after a utility vehicle rolled down a hill created by a washed out road.
This fall, the U.S. Supreme Court will decide whether states can restrict gender-affirming care for minors. This will be the first time the High Court will weigh in on this issue in a substantive way. The case was brought by the Biden administration challenging a transgender care ban that was enacted last year in Tennessee. The law outlaws hormone therapy and puberty blockers for minors and imposes civil penalties for doctors who violate the law. A growing number of states have enacted similar laws targeting transgender care.
On the second anniversary of the overturning of Roe v. Wade, groups on both sides of the issue rallied in Raleigh. The anti-abortion group NC Values Coalition held a news conference on Halifax Mall yesterday, and the National Organization for Women also held a rally at the Legislative Building.
Parents in Louisiana are suing the state's education department and school board after a recent law passed to place the 10 Commandments in schools. 9 families filed the federal lawsuit Monday. The families are suing to challenge the constitutionality behind the new law. It requires the 10 Commandments to be displayed in every public school classroom. The parents and civil rights groups say the new law violates the Establishment Clause, which forbids the government from taking any action to establish a state religion.
A New Jersey man is accused of going to Florida to try to kill another player from an online video game. Authorities say 20-year-old Edward Kong got into an argument with another player on the game ArchAge. They say he flew to Florida, where he bought a hammer and gloves before sneaking into the other man's home and attacking him. The man who was attacked needed staples in his head. Investigators say Kong told them he did it because he is a bad person online. He's charged with attempted murder.
Garner police are looking for a person involved in a shooting and robbery. It happened around midnight Monday at Resco Mart on Purser Drive. Now, police say a man wearing a mask and all black clothing robbed a cashier. During the robbery, a gun went off and the cashier was grazed. The man left with some money.
Dry, hot conditions in our state are taking a huge toll on farmers as well as on everyone's wallet. Big cash crops that farmers rely on are withering in this heat wave. That leads to higher prices at the grocery store for all of us. The Robertson family in Wayne County invests a lot of time and money on farm crops like corn. But during an extended heat wave without rain, crops don't develop the way they should. Wade Robertson says he quit tending to his potatoes and corn a week ago. The loss has taken a toll.
You know, you hear mental stress right now for farmers. That's a big thing, their mental well-being, because it is stressful to know you're losing thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars.
NC State economist Mike Walden projects the loss of crops for North Carolina farmers to cause prices at the grocery store to go up by as much as 25% over last year.
4:47 the time right now on a Tuesday morning. Elizabeth Gardner in the WRAL Severe Weather Center. What a serious problem for farmers. They're not getting any rain, not seeing any rain in the forecast.
Yeah, there's really not much. We do have a 60% chance on Thursday. The problem this time of year is we don't typically see these big fronts that come through, you know, that bring widespread rain, or, you know, if it's not summertime, you know, we'll have a low come through and rain all day long. We just don't have that sort of a pattern in the summer. So once it starts to get dry in the summer, it is really hard to recover from from that. We take a live look at Durham right now. The Lucky Strike Tower, it is 76 degrees. We have a northeast wind right now, 7. It has dropped our humidity just a touch this morning. Yesterday at this time, our dew points were in the mid-70s, and this morning they're in the upper 60s. It's a subtle change, but I noticed it when I walked in this morning. Temperatures will be in the mid-80s by lunchtime, and we do have clear skies. We have the top of the tower lit in blue this morning for clear skies across our area. There were a few people that did see some rain yesterday. Most of it was in our southeastern counties. Melissa Hayes from Walnut Creek sent us her rain gauge, where she ended up with 2 inches of rain, but that was a tiny pocket there, and mostly in Wayne County, where we ended up with some rain. Show us what's happening in your backyard. Go to WRAL.com, search Weather Watchers, send us your weather photos. Around town today, another hot one, 95 in Raleigh, 94 in Durham, and 97 in Fayetteville. We did have that chance of storms yesterday. Today and tomorrow look pretty dry. Tomorrow's big story is going to be the extreme heat. Yesterday, like I said, we were way up into tropical. Today, we're knocked down to around steamy, but it does go up again for tomorrow and Thursday in particular, and it stays high in the tropical zone on Friday and Saturday again. So we don't have much of a break coming our way. Today it's likely to feel like 100. Tomorrow it will be 100 with 104 and then 105. So it's possible that both or either one of those days, Wednesday or Thursday, will go under a weather alert day. Still could be feeling like 103 Friday and 100 on Saturday. We could end up with a heat advisory for tomorrow. Look at this high for tomorrow. Durham and Raleigh 100, 100 Fayetteville, 100 Goldsboro, 99 in Rocky Mount. It's going to be a very uncomfortable day. We typically average one 100-degree day per year. We're going to end up seeing it. The average first is July 13th. The average last is July 30th. So we mostly see those only in July. The earliest was on June the 7th. And one year we had one on October 3rd. That was a crazy year for sure. We are cooler on Thursday and Friday, technically, with highs in the low 90s, but the humidity will be up. We will have a chance for thunderstorms. We're going to walk through those chances for the next few days coming up in just a few minutes.
Thanks, Elizabeth. A South Carolina flight instructor is being celebrated for an emergency landing on a highway.
Hear what was going through her head as she landed safely without even causing a traffic backup.
Alex Trebek is being honored with postal stamps, Jeopardy style. We'll have a look at the trivia question that's included on these special stamps. Today in entertainment news, Beyonce is opening doors for emerging black country artists, and Sabrina Carpenter is #1. Here's David Daniel with the Hollywood Minute.
When I first heard that Beyonce was making a country album, I felt ready.
Beyonce has opened a door that's going to be really hard to close.
Call it a Cowboy Carter response. Beyonce Covered features 6 emerging black country artists delivering live recorded country versions of some classic Beyonce songs. The collection is available now in spatial audio on Apple Music for Black Music Month.
All I'm asking, baby, please, 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 don't prove I'm right.
Sabrina Carpenter has her first Billboard Hot 100 #1. Please, Please, Please debuted last week at #2, just ahead of her viral hit Espresso. Both are on her new album Short and Sweet, due out August 23rd.
The great beyond. The infinite darkness of the universe.
Music is rocking the big screen, too. Ghost, Right Here, Right Now, is expanding after grossing $5 million globally. Instead of just a long weekend as planned, Trafalgar Releasing is keeping the Swedish rock band's concert film in theaters for the rest of the week and next week as well. In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
More affordable housing options are soon coming to Raleigh. State and city leaders announced more than $500,000 in federal funding from the EPA for the Cottages of Idlewild development in downtown Raleigh. The money will go toward building 18 affordable housing units at the intersection of Idlewild Avenue and East Lane Street. Households earning 30 to 80% of the area median income will be eligible to own or rent in this new community. A public land trust model will be utilized to maintain affordability.
Folks are getting hit hard. It's the #1 issue I hear about from the people I represent in Congress, in this district. And we got to respond and do as much as we can. We throw everything we can at the wall. The problem with affordable housing is there's not one thing you can do. You got to do 100 things. This is one of those things today.
Congressman Wiley Nichols says he hopes to see the project completed within the next 2 years. The development will also integrate cleaner stormwater infrastructure to enhance property value and provide environmental benefits.
We're getting our first look at the postal stamp that will honor late Jeopardy host Alex Trebek. When you buy a book of 20 stamps, the layout looks like a Jeopardy game board. Each stamp shares the same clue. This naturalized U.S. citizen hosted the quiz show Jeopardy for 37 seasons. The stamp also includes the correct response. Who is Alex Trebek? You can pre-order them now on the U.S. Postal Service website for about $15.
A flight instructor is being celebrated for her quick thinking by making an emergency landing on I-77 in South Carolina. She landed the plane safely after she and her student experienced a mechanical failure. This happened last week just north of Columbia. Nicole Smith says she and her student started hearing clicking noises about 40 minutes into their flight. She believes a piece fell out of the plane, and she needed to find a quick place to land safely.
My thought at the time was just to make sure that I didn't go into oncoming traffic. I did see the cars kind of going off on the shoulder, and I was trying to mitigate that as best as possible while still landing safely.
Right there on the median, Smith was able to land the plane with no injuries to her, her student, or anyone else on the ground. Authorities say there wasn't even a backup on the interstate. Well done.
People have been seeing it so much lately, they're used to it now. Well, coming up, we'll have a look at the local athletes competing in the Team USA track and field trials. Plus, a dramatic fall in the women's 800-meter race leads to a stunning upset.
And the state Senate and House are at odds about how to use a $1 billion budget surplus. The big topics the two chambers disagree on, including raises and bonuses for state employees.